If you like books and graphic novels, this episode's for you. Welcome to the Perrysburg Podcast, episode 143. I'm your host, Perrysburg resident Kim Newlove. The Perrysburg Podcast is a resource for Perrysburg residents, future and current. We talk about what's in Perrysburg and why people like to live here. Our website is perrysburgpodcast.com. The Northwest Ohio Teen Book Festival is coming up next week on Saturday, April 25th, 2026, at the Toledo School for the Arts. To learn more about it, I sat down with Denise Phillips, a Teen Book Festival committee member, and of course, the owner of Gathering Volumes Bookstore, an independent bookstore here in Perrysburg. Plus, I talked to 7 authors who will participate at the festival by giving talks and/or signing books. I really dove into this episode. I learned a lot about it through talking to Denise and all of these authors. You can learn more about the festival and register online at nwoteenbookfest.com. One of my very favorite parts of the website is the pictures of each author and a featured book that they wrote. So if you would like to see who will be at the Northwest Ohio Teen Book Festival, head over to nwoteenbookfest.com. This episode is dedicated to the teens and tweens of Perrysburg and their families. It is my hope that this episode will inspire you to read, write, and/or draw and attend this year's Northwest Ohio Teen Book Festival. If you find this episode after the festival, I know that is possible because these podcast episodes live on for years. Or if you live outside of Northwest Ohio, I still hope that this episode inspires you to read, learn, and create. There are well over a dozen book recommendations in this episode. You may want to take notes. You will feel inspired to read, if nothing else. And I just want to say a couple more things as we wrap up this introduction. If you peeked at the length of this episode, you know it is a record-setting long episode, but it is a great episode. There are 8 interviews in total. Denise Phillips kicks off the episode with general information about the book festival. And then we have 7 author interviews. They're all about 12 minutes each, and in alphabetical order, you will hear from Chelsea Bobulski, Paul Coccia, Mark Crilley, Scoot McMahon, Abbey Nash, Natalie D. Richards, and Suja Sukumar. And that's it. You will hear from Denise plus those 7 authors. You will find timestamps for each interview in the episode description on your podcast player and in the show notes on perrysburgpodcast.com. I mention these timestamps because if you don't have 2 consecutive hours to listen to this mega episode, for example, you might listen to the first 3 interviews and then need to come back for the last ones, just look at the timestamps in your podcast player's description or on the website and you can pick up where you left off. That does it for the episode introduction. Now let's get to the interviews. Here's my conversation with Denise Phillips. Hi, Denise. Welcome back to the Perrysburg Podcast.
It's nice to be here. Thanks for having me back, Kim.
It's my pleasure. We're going to be talking about the Northwest Ohio Teen Book Festival today.
Yes.
Yeah, great topic. Well, can you tell me, what is it?
So it is an all-day festival geared around teens and tweens of Northwest Ohio, so they can come in and meet authors and get excited about reading, writing, and art. Um, while it's geared around teens and tweens, it's also welcoming to all. We do have quite a few adults who come and younger siblings, but the authors all write in the young adult genre.
When people go to the book festival, what will they see? What's the flow of it?
We start out with check-in, where they'll check in and they'll be introduced to the venue because we have a new venue this year. We're at the Toledo School for the Arts this year. And then we have a little, we call it a scavenger hunt, could be called a quest, I don't know. But it's an activity where it gives them a chance to move around in the venue and see where all the rooms are that they might be going to for sessions throughout the day. And also possibly win prizes. So when we go into the keynote, we'll draw from the folks who completed the scavenger hunt, and they'll win books. So that's what they'll see when they first enter. So when they first get there, our main goal is to get them comfortable in the venue and make sure that everybody kind of knows where they're going and where they're headed.
I have a postcard here, and it says that it starts at 9:30. Is that when the doors open?
So the doors will probably open before that. We still have to confirm that with the venue, but I'm guessing the doors will open by 9. And then the first group oriented event is the keynote by Susan Dennard, and that will start at 10. So we'll need everybody into the theater auditorium and seated by 10.
Who is Susan Dennard, and why is she the keynote?
So Susan Dennard is the author of multiple New York Times bestsellers. So she wrote the Truth Witch series. That might not be the name of the series. That's the name of the first book. I can't remember if the series is called, the series might be called Witchlands. She also wrote the Luminaries trilogy, and her newest book is called The Executioners 3. And The Executioners 3 is going to be her featured book. And we also have a community read session where if you read the book ahead of time, the community reads like a big book club where we have like activities and talks about that book with Susan Dennard there.
Okay, and she writes books for teens and tweens, right?
Yes. Yep. All of her books are categorized as young adult, so 12 and up. And she's also in the fantasy category. So all of her books have some magic fantasy element to them.
Okay, I gotta admit, I love young adult books. They're
Me
a
too.
lot of fun to read. Yeah, my son Craig and I really enjoy reading young adult books together. I think
Yeah.
right now we just finished some Stuart Gibbs books.
hmm
And yeah, there's all kinds of great books out there. And Harry Potter belongs to that genre. Who doesn't love Harry Potter?
Yeah. Well, the one of the reasons we picked Executioners 3 for the community read, I have read it, and it's I think a great parent child read together. It's set in the 90s, and NSYNC plays a big part in the book. And there's quotes from the songs, and Lance Bass in particular gets mentioned quite a lot throughout the book. So there's all this for parents like me, parents of current teens. There's a lot of that 90s nostalgia. So I loved reading it and getting all of those like 90s references, but it also has a lot of fun stuff for the teens to read. There's a lot of YA that gets written, I feel like, with a more older YA, possibly adult YA readers in mind when they're writing it. This is truly written for like student YA, for the what most of us think of as our teen readers. There's a lot of fun, there's a lot of antics, there's a prank war going on between two schools. There's a little bit of romance, but nothing like nothing adult romance, if that makes sense. So I love that you mentioned that because I think this is a great read for a parent and their teen to read together and then come to the community read and discuss it together. I think that'd be a great. That'd be something I'd do with my two. I have a 16 and 19-year-old, and I would totally make them do that with me.
Make them. I think your kids like to read.
They have a word.
They have been voluntold.
Voluntold, thank you, to attend with me. And they'd enjoy it. And a lot of the things I kind of force my kids to do afterwards, they admit that they enjoyed. So I think it would be enjoyable for both the parent and the teen.
Got it. Okay. I'm putting together a timeline in my head here.
Mhm,
So doors might open around 9 a.m.,
mhm.
unconfirmed, but around that. There's a scavenger hunt. And then 10 o'clock, everybody gets together in some sort of an auditorium. There's a
Mhm,
keynote by Susan Dennard. And
mhm.
then what happens for the rest of the day? Because it
So
looks like this goes until 3:30, 4 o'clock.
yep, 3:30. So, after the keynote, we break off into our sessions. So there are 4 blocks, session blocks, and each block has, about 6 sessions to choose from. So, like I mentioned, it's for readers, writers, artists. So there's generally at least one panel discussion with the authors. So for someone like me who's a reader, I am a reader, period. I love to read, but I'm not a writer. I would go listen to a group of authors and a moderator speak maybe about writing about difficult subjects. Like Trisha Springstubb's book is about a family whose house burns down, right? That's a tough subject. So there'll actually be somebody there who's also a counselor, just to make sure that we're keeping our conversation appropriate for everyone when we're talking about writing about tough subjects. That would totally be a panel that I would want to go see. There's panels on how do you add magic to your book? How do you build your magic into your book? So for readers to go hear about that.
About how the sausage is made, so to speak.
Exactly. Yeah. And then there's also sessions for the writers on how do you write, how do you publish. There's a collage poetry, session. How do you write poetry? I think every teenage girl wrote some poetry in her days, right? Um, and then there are sessions for artists. So and we talked earlier that we have multiple artists coming. So Scoot McMahon is always very popular. He actually is a local illustrator, cartoonist. Mark Crilley is coming back again. He was here last year. Amazing artist, and an amazing speaker. And then we have the author of The Keeper, which is a graphic novel memoir about being a professional female soccer goalie. Um, so there's tracks kind of for everyone, but you can jump around, choose whatever you want to do. But every session you have multiple options. So hopefully there's something everybody will enjoy in each of the 4 blocks. And then we feed everybody lunch for free as well. So one of those blocks you can take to do your lunch. And then you may want to do a lot of times, I was really surprised. A lot of times we see the kids do their lunch as quick as they can, and then they run off to, like, we have a board game room where you can play board games with the authors, or they kind of split it so they can do multiple things, or maybe finish their scavenger hunt if they didn't have time to do it beforehand.
This sounds like an event where a parent could drop their tween or teen off if they trust them
Mhm.
and leave them all day from 9 o'clock until
3:30.
3:30.
Yeah, we'll finish with an hour of author signings. So between 2:30 and 3:30, the authors will all be in one space, and everybody can go get their book signed and talk to the authors face to face if they choose to. So the pickup time is somewhat lenient because that's kind of just open time that last hour. But absolutely, they can drop their responsible child off to enjoy the day, or they can join them. I've seen parents hanging out in the cafeteria where we serve lunch and just doing their own thing there too, if they don't feel comfortable dropping their student off but don't want to go hang out in the sessions. But I recommend checking the sessions out. I think they're very enjoyable for us adults too.
Yeah, especially us bookish adults.
Yes.
I love to read too.
I know. I'm the biggest fangirl there, I swear.
Aw. Yeah, this has got to be like your Disneyland day. Like
Yes.
your husband drops you off at the door and you have fun all day.
Absolutely.
As far as registration, how does
Mhm.
someone register for this event?
So if you go to our website, which is nwoteenbookfest.com, you can click on the register button. You do register through Eventbrite, which is a very popular event registration tool. Registration is suggested, recommended, but not required. However, it helps us make sure, since we feed everybody, that we are planning lunch for the right amount of people. Like, we don't want to run out of lunches. And we do not limit the students to a single lunch. So we do have some students who may want to eat more than one lunch. So we try to have enough food, but the registrations is really how we know to make sure we have enough handouts for everybody, enough food for everybody. So we really, really recommend registering.
Okay. I understand this is not the first time. This is not your first rodeo.
No.
So, in the past, how many participants have you had?
We're usually around the 400-ish mark lately, I think. And we're not really super good at counting how many people walk through the door. So we're pretty good at knowing how many have registered, but we're not always the best at making sure we know exactly how many walked through the door. But I would estimate about 400.
Okay, that's a really good number. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I understand this is your fifth year. Is that right?
Yes. Yeah, this is our 5th official year of having the festival. We actually started planning in 2019. Our first festival was supposed to be in April, like 3rd of 2020 or April 7th, something like that. And we had to cancel 3 weeks beforehand. But it gave us we had a whole year of planning as a practice in the end for our first official festival. So this is our 5th actual festival.
You had a book fair
6th
drill.
plan. Yeah.
Your sixth planned, but your fifth actual.
Executed.
Yeah, there you go. Well, congratulations on your fifth year. That's
Thank
exciting.
you. It is very exciting.
Yeah, I went to one of them that was at Rossford High School. So
Mhm.
that was the previous location.
Yeah.
Why the change?
So it was really just around timing. Because we are dependent on the venue, obviously, it was really around when the venue was available. And Rossford is a busy school. They have a lot going on. So unfortunately, the day that was available wasn't really the ideal day for us to host our festival. It would have been in the middle of a lot of spring breaks and right before Easter.
Oh, geez. Yeah. Well, it looks like you picked a great day. It's not going to have any sort of weather effects. Hopefully, I hope I didn't just jinx you, but it's
We've
in
had them.
April.
We've
So,
had weather effects before, so we can manage it.
okay. But in April, that late in April, Saturday, April 25th,
Mhm.
2026, from morning till afternoon, I think, at least I would hope there's no blizzards or anything
Yep.
like that. And you guys can handle a little bit of rain.
Yep. Yep. We can handle anything. We've had snow. We've had rain. We've had. Yep.
It is Ohio.
Yes.
All right. Well, we've talked about a lot of things, the what it is and what's going to happen. I love that you broke down that timeline and what's going to go on from the start to the finish. It is at the Toledo School for the Arts. We talked about why you moved it. What else would you like to talk about? What do you think the audience might like to know about the Northwest Ohio Teen Book Festival?
Well, for parents, there is plenty of parking. We actually have more buses coming this year than we have in the past from schools, and we have a special lot just for the buses to park. So there are two lots for the participants to park in, one behind the school and one that's run by the Village on Adams right across the street from the entrance to the school. So there's two different entrances, and we'll have people there to register you at either one or to check you in at either one. Um, so no worries about that. So lots of parking for the adults. For the kids, we have such amazing authors and so many different genres of books. So I'm confident everybody's going to find somebody they love. We have students that have come. So again, I have a 16 and 19-year-old. So my children and their friends have come in the past. And I'm always love when someone tells me afterwards, that was actually a lot of fun. As in, I didn't really think it was gonna be fun, and I came because you really wanted me to, but I actually enjoyed it, and it's always makes me so happy. I'm like, that's what we're trying to do is get everybody to enjoy a day geared around books. But we have authors that write realistic fiction, we have authors that write fantasy, we have authors that write horror. Horror is having a bit of a comeback right now, so we have some YA horror books and authors. And like I said, we have graphic novels and artists. Chelsea Bobulski is going to be back. She actually lives in Perrysburg, and she's got a new romance coming out. And I can never remember how there's an official term for the type of Regency romance. I think is the official term for it. So royals. For the teens, there's something for everyone. Please give it a shot. Again, if you come and then you tell your parents you want to leave after the first session because you decide you aren't enjoying yourself, nobody's going to stop you. But I have a feeling you're going to want to stick around. I think you're going to enjoy it.
Thanks for talking about the parking situation. As a parent, we
Yes.
always like to know, where do I go so I can
Yep.
safely drop my
Easy,
child
easy
off?
parking. There's a direct parking behind the building that'll get you in basically through their loading dock area. And that's right next to the cafeteria. So you'll be coming in right next to where you'll eat lunch. The lot in the front is right on 14th Street or 14th and Adams, right on Adams Street, but right at 14th and Adams. And you'll basically walk in at the doors by the theater, which is where the keynote is going to be. So either parking lot, you're coming in a good entrance and it'll give you a good view of where you want to be.
Okay. And how much money should somebody bring with them to purchase a book?
So most of the books are probably between $15 and $20. If you are getting a hardcover, it might be $22, $23. So I would say bring lots because you're going to want lots of books. But if you're coming and just intending to buy one book, 25 should be plenty.
Good to know because teens don't always have credit cards. And if they're unaccompanied by an adult, they don't have the apps and
Yeah.
all the things.
Yeah, we do. The bookstore does a lot of school book fairs, and we are seeing more kids with the watches, the tap watches, or on their phone.
Interesting.
So we will be able to take tap anything that taps. So
Okay. Good
so
to know.
yeah, if they don't want to carry cash.
Okay. Denise, one of the things that I have not asked yet, and I can't believe I didn't start with this, is why? Why have a teen book festival in Northwest Ohio?
Oh goodness. So There's so many reasons. So one is just community, having a third space for students who are interested in reading to come together and enjoy a day with each other, celebrating reading and writing. Right. Part of it is the statistics on teen reading is that there's been a pretty big drop off in teens that read for fun. So part of it is trying to get those teens who would enjoy reading for fun, but don't realize quite yet that they enjoy reading for fun, out in a space to get them excited and to show them that there are lots of us that are excited about reading. Um, so kind of twofold. One is the kids that already know they love reading, get them together, give them a space to enjoy and celebrate that. And kids who maybe don't quite realize yet how much fun reading is, give them a space to learn about it and to realize that it is something that they want to spend their time doing.
I love that. That's a very wholesome why.
Thank
Yes.
you.
Yeah. Bring out that enjoyment of reading. Denise, I got to tell you, when I was a kid, I did not like to read. And I was one of those kids who resisted reading. My mom was a high school English teacher. And I think part of it was I wanted to rebel against my mom.
Yeah.
But what ended up happening was I remained a slow reader, so slow that when I went to take the ACT, I only took it one time. I got a 25, which is great.
Mhm.
But I didn't finish the test because I couldn't read fast enough to take the rest of the questions. And I remember answering D for everything. I don't know why.
Oh.
D for everything that I didn't. And I just thought, there were a lot of unanswered questions, a lot of guesses on my part. So, from me to anybody listening to this, if for no other reason, help your young people find books they enjoy and help them learn to love reading because it'll help them read faster and it'll pay off later in life. It wasn't until the Harry Potter books came out in the late 90s when I was 19 years old, I think. I was born in 78, and I remember working for Toledo Hospital as an intern on midnights because I needed to work through college. I had to pay for my own college. And I remember working these midnight shifts, and then I'd go home during the day and I'd sleep in the morning. But if I couldn't, fall asleep because I was having a weird sleep wake cycle, I would read my Harry Potter chapters. And I found that I really liked that. And I would stay up way too late during the day reading, and then I'd be kind of tired and dragging, but it was worth it.
Yeah.
And I developed this love of reading after Harry Potter. And there's so many more books as an adult then that I picked up on. I just had to find the right book for me. So I'm sure that as a bookseller there at Gathering Volumes Bookstore, you help people find the right book for them all the time.
Well, and I've
Yes.
seen you and your husband come in with your kids, right?
Yes.
So you have passed that on to your own
Yes.
children, which is that's the key, right? Is once one person learns to love it, you pass it on, right? Um, but yeah, absolutely. There's the right book for everyone. Whether and it may be a graphic novel, which I know there's some people still who kind of don't consider that necessarily, the same level of reading, but graphic novels get a lot of kids interested in reading and then they move on and they still continue to read graphic novels. Let's face it, there's a lot of graphic novels coming out and they're great. But they do tend to move on to reading the full novels as well once, or the traditional novels, I shouldn't say full, the traditional novels, when when they realize that they do love the stories.
Yeah, it translates to a different genre, like the printed book or maybe an audiobook.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, there's a book out there for everyone. One of the books that I recommend for folks who come in looking for a book for a teen boy, especially if they say that they have a teen boy who doesn't like to read, is a book that I read and learned about at the very first Northwest Ohio Teen Book Festival, by Kurt Dinan, who's an Ohio author, and it's a prank war, and it's funny, and there's a lot of action. And it just is the book that I find that if I recommend that to a young man who maybe hasn't discovered his love of reading yet, that they really get into. So,
The book
um,
is called Prank War.
no, I can see it. It's red and it has cows on the cover. Kurt Dinan's Don't Get Caught.
There you go. Yep, we had to Google that live during the interview, but we got it. But
um,
I'm interested in that
and
too.
and
I'm always taking new recommendations.
yeah, and one of the things that I should say is we've had so many amazing authors that have gone on to be huge. So, getting authors to come to Northwest Ohio it's not the same as getting them to come to New York or Chicago, right? Um, but we've had authors that immediately after our festival become huge. So Casey West was a keynote last year, and now her books are everywhere. Farah Rochon was a author at the festival 2 years ago, and she writes in the Twisted Tales Disney series and writes adult romance now and is huge. Christy Boyce, writes Dungeons and Drama as well as other YA romance, she's now huge. So Misty Wilson, whose new fall romance was a huge book this fall, she came to the festival as well. So it's a great place to learn about authors and find an author you love and then watch that author soar.
I love all the name dropping, and I think that gives all of these possible participants a reason to come. They're going to meet authors who are at the beginning of their journey and they're doing amazing things.
Yeah. And they aren't all at the beginning. Susan Dennard has quite a few books out. Mark Crilley has a lot of books out. Chelsea has multiple. So a lot of the authors, Andrea Hanna has quite a few. So they aren't all at the beginning of their journey. But I will say you will likely, if you come, meet somebody who is at the beginning of their journey, and then you'll get to watch them become a bestseller. To me, I love that. I love discovering an author before everybody else discovers them, and this is a great opportunity for that.
Yeah, and it's a good opportunity to find a gem that
Yeah,
you weren't expecting to find and go home and read it and then maybe share it with a friend too.
absolutely.
Yeah. Denise, as we start to wrap this up, I want to ask you, when you were a teen or a tween, what
Mhm.
was your favorite book?
Okay, so everybody read The Outsiders, right? When I was a teen, that was like a new YA didn't really exist. I read Stephen King as a teen, right? I don't think young adult was really a genre yet, but S.E. Hinton's The Outsiders, and then I read every single book by S.E. Hinton. And my favorite for anybody who's listening and hasn't read it yet, Rumblefish by S.E. Hinton is probably my favorite book that I read as a teen. So I love that now there is a genre geared towards those readers that has relatable characters for them and that has real world issues. I always tell people I read a lot of YA, and YA tackles some of the subjects that you don't see you're not seeing yet in fiction geared towards adults. Like they take chances sometimes and cover tough subjects. And I love that about the genre.
Yeah, and that leads to interesting conversations with young people.
Absolutely. And the conversations we need to be having, right? The conversations about doxing online. We had an author last year whose featured book was about a student who was a video gamer getting doxed online. I don't know that I'd seen any adult books about that yet, but that's a really important subject to talk to your child about, in my opinion, as a parent. Um, I read a book recently, the new book by Mindy McGinnis, who again has come in the past. She won't be here this year, unfortunately, because of a scheduling issue, but she's come in the past. But her newest book, How Girls Are Made, is about some of the real world situations that young people can get into. And after I finished it, I'm making my son read it now because everything that happens to the young women in the book can totally happen to young men as well. And we need to make sure we're having those conversations with them and making sure they're staying out of spaces that are not safe for them.
Ooh, some words of caution there.
Yeah,
Yeah, but it's the real world.
it
Yeah.
is.
And sometimes it can be nicer, I guess, to learn about things that are happening in the real world through the lens of a young person.
Yep.
Because when we're adults, we're talking about it like we're adults. But if somebody gets introduced to it by a young adult author, it might be a more gentle
Yeah.
introduction, just my
Well,
opinion.
reading puts you in the character's shoes, right? So you're seeing it from their perspective
Hmm.
and you're feeling their feelings, and it's a unique way to learn about it rather than having a policeman come talk to an assembly of kids, right? It's a very different way to learn about it and to experience it.
Yeah. Well, I feel like we're kind of ending this on a serious note, but is there anything else you would like to share as we wrap this up?
No, I just like to encourage people come out, give it a chance. Like I said, we're not gonna get mad if it's not your thing after you experience it. But I really think that if you come out and spend the day with us, you're going to enjoy yourself. It's a unique experience to talk about, and hopefully you find a couple good books that you want to add to your to be read pile.
All right. And it's again a free event, right?
Yep, completely free. Registration's free. We feed you lunch for free. The only possible cost is if you decide to buy a book.
All right. And bring $25 at least.
Yes.
All right. Denise, thank you so much for coming back to the Perrysburg podcast and good luck to you.
Thank you so much for having me, Kim. It's so sweet of you.
My pleasure. That ends my interview with Denise. 1 down, 7 to go. Next up, let's hear from our first author. Her name is Chelsea Bobulski. Hi, Chelsea. Welcome to the Perrysburg podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm delighted to be here.
Well, it is my pleasure. You're the hometown gal in all of the interviews that I've done for this teen book festival. This is awesome.
Yes, I love Perrysburg. It's the best place to live.
Yeah. So you are a Perrysburg resident. Are you in the city or the township?
City.
Okay. I'm a city gal too. Very nice. Now, have you participated in this teen book festival previously?
Yes, I've been fortunate enough to have been at all of the teen book festivals ever since the start. And, that's because it's local. So it makes it really easy for me to get there.
Awesome. What's your experience been in the past? Like, what do people do when you're there, or how do you participate? Both sides of the fence.
Yeah, it's been wonderful. It's a great opportunity for authors to do panels where we get to talk about the craft of writing and storytelling and why storytelling is important. And readers and writers alike can come and listen to the panel. And, I find that teens who just love to read and aren't interested in writing still enjoy hearing about the process behind their favorite stories, but especially those teens who really are interested in writing as a future career or just want to know more about it, they get to learn this wealth of knowledge from so many different authors who have been working at this craft for many, many years.
Awesome. I can only imagine how cool it is for a teen or a tween to be among all of these authors. And they might be a little bit, starstruck. Like, oh
Mhm.
my gosh, this person took an idea, turned it into a book, found a publisher, and here I'm holding it in my hands. Do you ever find anybody that's starstruck when they meet you?
Oh my goodness. I don't know because I guess I'm almost starstruck to meet them because I'm so thankful for my readers. I'm so thankful that my stories can get out there and find those people, those teens, adults, whoever it may be, who it really resonates with, and who tell me, that story helped them in some way or another. Like I'm the one who just feels so blessed and honored to get to meet them. So I don't know if I've even ever noticed that, but I can say when I think back on when I was a teenager and I was interested in writing, getting to meet authors, I was starstruck. I not only that, but I was also very encouraged by the fact that like this person did what I want to do, which means it's achievable. And that's what I want to leave all writers of every age with is it doesn't matter how old or young you are. If you have a dream and a desire to tell stories, like start now. You have everything inside you need to start and make that dream a reality.
I love that you want to inspire, but it also sounds like you want to welcome organic interaction, whatever it's going to be. If somebody's looking to write or they just want to experience hearing about you talking about how you came up with your book ideas or how you wrote, it sounds like you're very welcoming of all interactions.
Yes, absolutely. 100%. I love to meet people and hear their stories and hear, why they're interested in being at the book festival, whether it's from a reading perspective or a writing perspective.
There you go. Yeah, finding out why they're there. That's awesome. Well, can you tell me what kind of panels will you be on this year?
I know I'm on a romance panel because my most recent release, which is coming out April 7th, is called A Deal with a Debutante. And it is my first adult historical romance release, but it's what they call no spice, meaning there's kisses, but it doesn't go beyond that. And I wanted that intentionally because since I am a young adult author, first and foremost, I have 6 young adult books currently published, plus a 7th releasing this fall, I wanted my teens and tweens to be comfortable moving into my adult series and knowing they're not going to encounter anything that they wouldn't encounter in my young adult, things that are still appropriate for their age and for what they're looking for in a story. And I wanted parents to feel comfortable with that as well. So it's no spice. It doesn't go beyond kissing, and it's very much a very similar vibe and voice as my young adult, just for new, adult readers as well.
I learned a new term today, no
Yes,
spice.
no spice.
Did you invent that or is that an industry
No,
term?
that's the new, it's gone through several different terminologies within the romance world. Some will say sweet romance, some say clean, just meaning that it doesn't go beyond a certain level of physical intimacy. But the newest kind of wording around it is no spice.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, I know you've been talking about these romance novels, but haven't you written in other genres as well?
Yes. So my first two books that came out in young adult space, The Wood and Remember Me. The thing is, I love romance, so even in other genres, like it happens to find its way in there. But The Wood is more has more mystery elements to it, as well as some thriller elements to it. It's about a girl who protects these time traveling portals in the wood behind her house. But when her dad disappears in the woods, she lets through a time traveler in the hopes that her dad can be saved. And the romance there is lighter. It's not as much central to the plot, but it's there because, of course, he's a very cute British boy from the 18th century. And so she can't help but be a little interested in him. And then Remember Me is a gothic romance. So it has horror as well as romance in it. We pitched it to editors as the horror of The Shining meets the romance of Titanic. So it has many genres kind of laced in there. But then I also have a 4 book Christmas romance series, which does focus on the romance. And it is very hallmarky, like bingey 4 book. It's called the All I Want for Christmas series. And it starts with All I Want for Christmas is the Girl Next Door.
Very nice. Sounds wholesome yet entertaining. And I love that you talked about what was it, The Shining versus Hallmark or something like that?
Yeah, so the horror of The Shining meets the romance of Titanic. That's Remember Me, and I will say Remember Me is totally the story of my heart. Like it's the story I think I always was trying to write from when I was young. So it's like everything that I'm interested in is thrown into there. So yeah, that's that. I just so enjoyed writing it, and I'm so thankful. And that one in particular had a really cool story with a reader who the main character in Remember Me is a ballerina. And I had a reader reach out to me and say, like, she was a ballerina who had lost her joy and her passion for ballet. And reading the book actually re inspired that for her. And so that was one of those things where I didn't envision ever that I might inspire a ballerina to find her joy again. But that's what this book did for her. And so that's why I love hearing those stories from readers and seeing how different books touch their lives.
Yes. Oh, I love that comment. Yeah, that's got to be so rewarding for you to hear the audience's interpretation of your work.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, thank you for talking about some titles and genres that you have written in. That's awesome. And can you tell me a little bit about why you think teen book festivals are important?
Yes, they're very important because the thing is, we are very story formed creatures. Whether we realize it or not, the stories that we consume, as well as the stories that we tell to others and to ourselves, really does sort of create our perspective, our environment, our worldview, everything that has to do with us. Like we are really knit together by stories. Stories teach empathy, they teach kindness, they teach, the ideal of good triumphing over evil, and what does that look like, and what does courage look like in the face of hard times. There's so much that books teach us. And I think that right now, especially with teens, sometimes reading is not like sometimes teens don't pick up books as opposed to other forms of entertainment. And so I think teen book festivals are a very important thing to continue, because a lot of times readers will drop off as they get older. But it's so important. It's so important to keep finding ourselves in books and learning about others through books.
Wow, I kind of feel like you just talked about how it's important for kids to learn how the sausage is made, meaning there are stories out there that we don't realize are ways that people are passing down their knowledge, their lived experience, what it looks like to be them, that sort of thing. So I feel like you just said that. So this is a great opportunity for teens and tweens to come on out and hear from the masters, why they made their books.
Yes, exactly. And that's exactly where that empathy piece comes from. I feel like books, more than probably any other entertainment source, allows you to put yourself into another person's shoes because you're reading their thoughts, their experience as if you were experiencing it. And so it just gives us a wider worldview in terms of how, like, why people might react to certain things the way they do, or how they might be viewing a situation as opposed to just how you would view it based on your experience. I think that's so important for, yeah, for world peace, to be completely honest with you.
Yeah, I think what you're saying is books and empathy kind of go hand in hand. I like
Yes.
that. Great message. Seriously,
Thank you.
especially with the given situation right now with the conflict overseas.
Hmm.
Yeah. All right, I'm going to pivot to a different question now. I would like to know, when you were a teen or a tween, what books did you read?
So I was fortunate enough and blessed enough to grow up in the Harry Potter generation. So I was very much formed by Harry Potter, and I remember, having to wait years and years and years for each book to come out, and the joy of getting that book in the mail. I remember specifically the Order of the Phoenix when it came out. It was, summer vacation, and I was sleeping, and my mom came in and woke me up because the book had arrived, and I read the first 100 some pages before I even came down for breakfast because I was so excited. So I think that the themes of good triumphing over evil and true love, like what does true love look like and what does it mean and how does it win the day, that those definitely still are very much in the themes of my own books.
You said Harry Potter. I love Harry Potter too. Any other books that you can think of that kind of brought that joy of reading to you at a young age?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, definitely Little Women. But really, when I think back on it, the joy really began with when my mom would read to me at night. So when I think of the joy of reading, I go as far back as the Berenstain Bears picture books and the Little Critters books and the Golden books, and those interactions where, being cuddled up with my mom on the bed and reading those is really what sparked it. And so again, it's that, it's so important to spark the joy of reading from an early age and then sustain it through things like this teen book festival.
Excellent advice, especially for parents of younger children. Yeah. Well, Chelsea, as we start to wrap this up, is there anything else you'd like to share?
Just that I'm very excited to be a part of the festival. I hope and pray that everyone who's interested in reading, if you have a teen or a tween who's interested in reading, writing, or even if you as a parent have always wanted to be a writer, you are more than welcome to come and sit in on the panels and hear from us and bring your teen and see if there's some books that they want to pick up as well as you, and just to learn from, as you said, people who've been in the industry for many years now and can kind of help share some of that wealth of knowledge and advice.
Excellent parting comments. Worth the trip. So I hope that my audience will come out and meet you and participate in the Northwest Ohio Teen Book Festival. Chelsea, thanks again for being here on the Perrysburg podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.
My pleasure. That's it for my interview with our first author, Chelsea Bobulski. Our second interview is with Paul Coccia. Paul is a Canadian author. He's coming to us from Toronto, Ontario, Canada. Now, has Paul ever been to Ohio? Let's join the interview and find out.
I've never been to Ohio, so it's now I can say I've been to Ohio.
That'll be awesome. Well, I'm happy that you can make it. Can you tell me, are you going to be speaking at any sessions, signing books? What's your involvement?
I am signing. I will be on a couple of panels, and I'll be giving a session, which is interesting because I'm not. I wrote a young adult romance book, which is recommended reading, the book that I've been invited for, but I'm not the most romantic person. So I will be giving a talk on how does a not romantic person write a romance, and here's my tips.
Well, I'm sure there's some research involved, so I think anybody attending that session will get the scoop on what worked for you.
Yes, like very specific dialogue prompts. Like, this is how you want to approach dialogue. This is how you want to approach this.
Well, I'm sure you have some great advice. You mentioned that you've got a romance novel that you're going to be talking about. That's the featured novel for you on the website. Can you tell me what other genres or titles would you like to tell us about that you've written?
Sure. Well, I actually just had my first picture book come out, which is called The Bear Fairy. It is a body positive, queer if you want it to be queer picture book for kids. It's one of those things where it's worked into the fabric, but in a very subtle way. So it's a take it or leave it. And it's a fun book. I've never written a picture book. That was a big change.
I saw the artwork. I thought it looked like a very cute bear.
Yeah, there's some people who are Why is he so fat and hairy? I'm like, well, that's kind of. Did you read the book? Maybe you want to take a second read.
All I saw was the cover, but I thought out of all of your books, that one and the basketball one, I think I would be most likely to read. Would you like to talk about the basketball one?
Sure. So, for those who don't know Canadian children's literature, I co-wrote a book called On the Line with Eric Walters. Eric Walters is kind of an icon amongst Canadian children's writers. He has, I think, 170 to 200 books right now. So he asked me to write this book. He had an idea for a story about a teenage boy who's 13. He loves basketball. He wants his parents to stop fighting, and they do because his dad comes out of the closet. That's all on the back cover, so I'm not spoiling anything. I wanted them to make the basketball rainbow to just kind of give a nod to the rest of the content of the book. But it ended up being a really fun, productive working relationship because I got to see how a really successful professional writer works. I also got a lot of backlash, which was interesting because I was only had one book out at the time when he asked me to write, and people did not think I deserved the opportunity. But too bad I had it and they didn't. I love jealousy. It doesn't make me feel bad. I'm petty.
Congratulations. I am not familiar with that Canadian children's author, so I'm glad that you told me that. Somebody looking at that book cover, people judge the book by the cover. They wouldn't know that. So thank you for talking about that.
Despite not being a sports person, I've written a hockey book, which, as a Canadian, everyone has to write a hockey book. I think it's unofficially our official sport. It's actually lacrosse, which I did not know.
Lacrosse is the official sport of Canada?
Yes, and our animal's the beaver, which totally makes sense for Canada.
With all the trees up there, I suppose. So you're Canadian, you've written in some sports genres, a children's book, now a relationship book. Is there anything I'm missing?
A book about Cher. If anyone loves Cher like I do, who can't love Cher? She has just redefined herself. So I wrote a story about a kid. I really worked all over the place. I did one that is probably the one that kids are most excited to see, a middle grade about kids who go into a VR video game. I like to change what I do a lot. So if an opportunity comes up, I think, why not try that? Why not do something different? And that's kind of how I approach writing. I like to be stimulated. I don't like to do the same thing over and over again.
Good for you. Yes, I like novelty as well. I like it when I try something new all the time, which as a podcaster, I get to go from episode to episode and it's very fulfilling. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, and as a writer and anyone who's interested in writing, or a reader even, it's really fun to be able to explore things and go, I can look over here, I can learn something new. I think writers and readers tend to be lifelong learners, which are my favorite kind of people.
Yeah, I think that's why you and I are getting along. So tell me, Paul, what are you hoping that participants at the Teen Book Festival will ask you about when they meet you?
Anything they ask, I will answer. That's either a great habit of mine or a bad habit of mine. I love to answer questions about the nuts and bolts of how to make a book work. So if you are a writer and you're struggling with a manuscript, ask me about it. I am very opinionated. It doesn't mean I'm right, but I'll at least give you a different perspective.
Okay. And what other engagement are you hoping for? Of course, you want to sell some books, but what other engagement are you hoping for?
I really do want to meet readers. I think it's interesting to hear readers' reactions, especially to something you wrote and put out there. How readers interpret things is not always how authors do. And an example is recommended reading, which I'm going to be talking about. There's a kind of a tertiary character. He's not even a secondary, in my opinion, named Roger. Fans hate him, which I was surprised by because I always thought if there was a sequel to the book, I would write it about him. And they're like, we hate this guy. He is, I thought he's not even that significant in the book, but apparently ruffled feathers every which way. So it's interesting to get that feedback. So much of what we do as writers is exist in isolation, and we work with the characters that we've created and exist only in our mind. So to hear how someone else reacts is always, wow, okay, tell me more about you reading this.
That's a really good point because what you put out there is not always the way that people perceive it when they read it. It's a really good point. Why do you think that teen book festivals are important?
Children's book festivals, teen book festivals, all book festivals are important, but right now we're seeing a massive ban, especially on books for young people. And I think that that's concerning because In Canada, we don't actually have freedom of speech. We have freedom of expression and freedom of information, which are kind of slightly different. But it's very clear when we talk about freedom of information in our country that a book ban is restricting access to information and access to learning and growing and developing. So I think that teen book festivals and children's book festivals in general are very important to make sure that kids get the information they need to make smart choices, to view the world in a very nuanced and complex way, because it is a nuanced and complex world. So I applaud everyone who works. I know it's all volunteer run. They're doing such good work to make sure that kids have the books they need.
Well said. I think people can learn about somebody else's lived experience. I have a friend who calls it a window book. You're looking like as if through a window at somebody else's life and learning about their lived experience. So I think books that are window type books are important, but then also books that are mirror books that mirror back who you are important to you too. Or maybe you didn't realize who you were and you're seeing it reflected in a book.
I'm going to geek out on you. I believe it was David Booth who actually came up with the theory of books as windows, that at least as far as I know in terms of literary theory, because I'm a geek for literary theory, so prepare to be bored. So David Booth has talked about books as windows, and windows sometimes reflect. And I think what we need to talk about as artists is the artist is actually the reflector. We take in and we project out like a prism. And I think that's an interesting way to look at ourselves and what we do and the way that we should approach our art.
I like that prism comment. I have never heard anybody say that. So that's a Paul
It's
Coccia original, right?
Well, we'll say yes, but I bet you someone else said it first because what ideas are new anymore?
I know what you mean, but I'll give you credit for it on this podcast. How's that?
Okay, and if I ever get quoted, we put down the citations, right, people? This is the podcast, cite it.
There you go. I know this is a very short podcast interview, but as we wrap this up, I'd like to know, do you have any books that were special to you when you were a teen or a tween that you'd like to tell my audience about?
So I was an avid reader and I would read anything. I especially liked when things got away from curriculum. There's a lot of good books I think bad curriculum killed for me. Love Wuthering Heights as a teen. I just love the drama. I haven't seen the new movie, but I'm very excited to see it. So that one was a big one. Also love the Golden Compass series. At the time, it had just come out as I finished middle school, and there were years gaps in between, and it was pre-internet, so I didn't know when the next book was coming. And I'd go and bother the bookstore stuff. And I'm like, do you have a date yet? What's the next book called? What's the title? So I love that series, and I've read it to my nephew, and he's obsessed with it too.
I've always wanted to read that series, The Golden Compass. I forget who the author is, but yes.
Philip Pullman, and there's 6 books and a bunch of mini stories that are attached to it. The HBO miniseries is actually pretty good. They take some artistic license, but it's okay. It's still pretty good. The Disney movie, not great.
Do you like to read a book then watch a movie or a miniseries?
Yeah, I like to give it a bit of time because
Mm,
I'd like to separate the two and go, that's a different piece of art. Someone else took their interpretation of that. Wicked, I know people love Wicked. First time I saw Wicked, I had just read the book and I went, I did not enjoy the musical. Now, years later, I'm like, love the musical, but I had to let those years elapse. So you have to accept that it's a different piece of art. It's based upon the one you might have loved.
Thank you for saying that. I recently watched the movie Project Hail Mary, and it had been
My
3
brother
years.
saw that last night. He said it was so fun.
I loved it. But like you, I had to let some time elapse between the book and the movie because the book was so very detailed. And I think the movie would never live up to the book. But independently, the movie was fantastic because it had been 3 years since I read the book.
Well, and then every once in a while there'll be a movie like The Wizard of Oz, which the movie is just it outdoes the books. Like, sorry, Frank Albaum, you started this, but the Wizard of Oz movie is so good, you just can't touch it with the book.
It's one of my favorites ever. And I have a Wizard of Oz pop up book that I love too.
Okay, we're of a similar age, and I have to ask, Return to Oz, did you see?
No,
It was a movie with the girl that went on to, or the actor that went on to do The Craft. She was a
no.
girl at the time. It is so unhinged. You have to watch it. It's fantastic. It's very late 80s. Um, Auntie M has decided that Dorothy's like in a psychosis and needs treatment at the beginning of the book. I'm like, this is fantastic. It's only the 80s could have made this.
I lived through the 80s and we talked about how you and I are similar ages. So, yes, I will have to check that out. I wrote it down. I learned a lot
On
by
Disney
talking to you.
Plus, by the way.
Oh, okay. Got it.
So
Got it.
you don't even have to go and search where to stream it. And there's this great thing of this character who collects heads of other women, and she switches out her heads at whim. It's terrifying. It's really great. It's if you're a kid of the 80s, you will love it.
Thank you for that suggestion. And Paul, unfortunately, we're out of time. Thank you so much for being here on the Perrysburg podcast. And I hope you love Toledo, Ohio when you stop out next month in April.
I'm going to love it. You have Target, and that was taken away from us, so jealous.
All right. Well, Toledo's looking forward to welcoming you. Thank you again.
Thank you.
That ends my interview with Paul Coccia. Paul is a lot of fun to talk to. We had a great conversation before I pressed record. We talked about books, movies, TV shows, the 80s, the 90s, all kinds of pop culture stuff. A lot of fun to talk to. If you would like to meet Paul Coccia, come on out to the Northwest Ohio Teen Book Festival and meet him on Saturday, April 25th, 2026. All right, our third author interview is next. It's Mark Crilley. Hi, Mark. Welcome to the Perrysburg podcast.
Thanks so much for having me.
It is my pleasure. It has been so fun interviewing all kinds of authors and artists for the Northwest Ohio Teen Book Festival. I'm so glad you could be on the show.
Well, thank you so much. Yeah, last year was my first time attending the book fest, and I had so much fun. So I know it's going to be a real pleasure to chat about it.
Can you tell me what will you be doing at this book festival?
Well, at least one of them will be me doing a sort of a drawing workshop of some kind. I know I did that last year, and that will probably be, very hands-on with the attendees having paper and pencils and being able to follow along with me step by step. I've done a lot of these over the years at not just book festivals, but libraries and schools. And it's always good fun to be able to guide even a very beginning artist through the process and show them that they can create a pretty nice drawing over the course of 10 or 15 minutes.
That is such an exciting opportunity, especially for young people who this might be their first time having a drawing lesson.
Yeah, absolutely. And then in a way, those are the people that I'm most excited to reach, to be that first person who inspired them to give it a try.
Yeah, it's almost like paying it forward. So, who inspired you? I mean, what did you read or whose drawings did you follow when you were growing up at that preteen and teen stage?
Well, I'll talk about the drawing part first. When I was a kid, I remember my parents taking me to the Detroit Institute of Arts. I grew up in Detroit, and there was an exhibition of the work of M.C. Escher. I don't know if you're familiar with his work, but he does these really fascinating illustrations, very imaginative. And I was quite young, but it kind of blew my mind, the stuff that I saw at that exhibition. And I think my parents bought a book that collected the sort of best or most famous works of M.C. Escher. And I used to pore over that book and just be in awe of his drawing skills. And I think that was one of those early inspirations that made me want to keep drawing every day and see if I could get better. In terms of writing influences, when I was a good bit older in high school, I started reading the books of Stephen King, like so many other people. And it's sort of funny to say because my work does not resemble the work of Stephen King. I've hardly done anything that is as frightening or and intense as what he is known for. But certainly his style of writing was a big influence on me at that time.
Some people love it, some people, skip it.
Well, I was right around the age when that first movie adaptation of The Shining came out. And I think that might be why I bought the book version. And then, of course, I went from book to book after that. But yeah, I think especially when you're a teenager, that kind of stuff that seems almost forbidden, oh my goodness, people are getting killed or whatever. It pulls you in and gets you excited. And I think the key takeaway is whichever author it is who gets you excited about reading and shows you that reading can be engrossing and almost addictive for you. That's a great writer, whoever that is.
Yes, indeed. I know we kind of took a tangent there talking about who you enjoyed reading when you were a tween or a teen, but can you tell me, what do you write now and what do you illustrate?
Well, I guess I am first known as a graphic novelist, or back in the 90s when I first got started, we just called ourselves comic book creators. And I've been fortunate to do a good many different projects, many of which comprise hundreds and hundreds of pages of comic book storytelling. The first thing that I did was called Akiko, which is a Japanese woman's name. My main character was a fourth grader named Akiko, and I described that project as The Wizard of Oz meets Star Wars because she starts out on the planet Earth and she gets taken to another planet called the planet Smoo. And from there, just like in Oz, anything can happen, and it's very sort of whimsical and magical. And that sort of launched me on my way. And I've done a variety of different projects, some of them for older readers that are a little older than that. But I think I'm mostly known as an all ages kind of a guy. And then somewhere along the way, I started doing instructional art books that teach people how to draw. And some of those very straightforward books that will teach you, let's say, how to draw manga style, like Japanese style, or how to do photorealism. Or I have one that's called the two pencil method, that is a more traditional pencil drawing book. And then finally, there's a book that brings these two different things together called The Drawing Lesson, which is a comic book story, but as you read it, you are getting lessons about how to draw. So in a way, I've enjoyed being able to do both of those kinds of books.
Congratulations on publishing. I've seen some of your covers as I've kind of clicked around on the Gathering Volumes bookstore website. So, congratulations on all that publishing. When you come to the Northwest Ohio Teen Book Festival, what kind of engagement do you hope to get from these young people?
Well, for me, it's not so much about going and showing off my books, though of course I'm happy to do that and tell the attendees about my books, but I'm really hoping to get them excited about the books that they might make. I feel like that's the thing about it, having an encounter with these younger people. We have a chance as authors to inspire the next generation of authors. And I know that when I was young, I would have loved to have had that opportunity to meet an author face to face. I eventually did when I was in college, but to meet one when you are in middle school or high school, that's a great opportunity, and so that's what I'm most excited about in terms of attending this festival.
You do have a really great opportunity to inspire these young people.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that the creative process can be a bit of a mystery. When you read a book and you enjoy it, or you look at a comic book and you're like, "Wow, this is amazing." It seems impossible to me that someone could sit down and do this and create this from the blank page all the way to this, beautiful finished book. And that's where I think these, in-person appearances really come in handy because you can get into the nuts and bolts, and I can bring in, rough draft versions and original artwork and sort of demystify all of this and say, here's the nuts and bolts, and here's something I changed, and here's a mistake that my editor caught, and we were able to fix it before we went to press. And I think it's great to sort of pull everyone behind the curtain and say, here's how we do it. Here's how these books get made.
What an awesome opportunity. It sounds like book festivals are important because it makes the authors and the graphic artists accessible. They're right there. this person grew up not far from me in Detroit, so we're in Toledo right here, Toledo area, and this could be the person that I look up to as my mentor. When this person's sitting in the seat, that might be their thought.
Yeah, absolutely, and I'm so glad that you sort of mentioned that idea of, like, this guy's from nearby, from, growing up in Detroit, not so far from Toledo, because that is really one of the first things that I tend to say when I'm speaking at schools or libraries. I say, look, I'm from Michigan. I'm from very nearby to you people. You don't have to be from New York City or Los Angeles. You don't need to have been born into some family that has connections to the publishing world. I didn't have any of that. I'm just like you guys are right. I was like you guys are right now. And so I am living proof that you can be the next one to do this professionally. And I'm here to give you some tips on how to hone your skills and maybe get you excited about your own books that are yet to be written.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. That's great. Role model.
Well, ideally, yeah. Like I said, I had the chance when I was in college to study under a man by the name of David Small, who is a great children's picture book author and illustrator. And I was very fortunate to be among his last students, and really he sort of pulled me aside and became a very real mentor and friend for me. And so the idea that I could be something like that for some other young person who has dreams like I did, that's a wonderful thing, and I can only hope that I could serve as such a mentor for some of the kids who attend this festival.
Yes, I hope that anybody listening to this will now be even more excited about attending the Northwest Ohio Teen Book Festival. Any last comments as we wrap this up?
Well, I mean, I just want to thank you for having this interest in speaking to authors like me. And I want to thank the organizers of the event for bringing me back for a second time. It really is so much fun. I guess I can say one final thing, just from the author's point of view. One of the wonderful things about these events is that our vocation is, by its very nature, kind of a solitary thing, and we're creating these books all by ourselves. And when you get invited to a big book festival like this with multiple authors, it is so much fun to meet the other people, almost like coworkers in a way, other people who are doing the same thing, and it's a rare and wonderful opportunity to chat with them and sort of commiserate about the good, the bad, and the ugly, and and all that good stuff in relation to the job. So yeah, I'm just super grateful that they have invited me back again. It really is a wonderful festival and something that Northwest Ohio can really be proud of.
I can't wait for Denise Phillips to hear this. She's put a lot of time and effort into organizing this with her
She
team.
has, she has, and we are all indebted to her.
Awesome. Well, I will be there when they're having the author signings, I believe at 2:30ish. So I look forward to meeting you.
Okay, fantastic. Thanks again for inviting me to be on the podcast. This was such a delight.
It's my pleasure. Thank you, Mark, for being here on the Perrysburg podcast.
Okay, wonderful.
That does it for my interview with Mark Crilley. Thank you, Mark. If you look on the Teen Book Festival website, which is nwoteenbookfest.com, you will see a close up of Mark's eyes. I think it's the only author that did this. So there's a close up of Mark's eyes, followed by the artwork for his book, The Comic Book Lesson, a graphic novel that shows you how to make comics. So if you go to the book festival and you see those eyes, you're looking at Mark Crilley. Next up is our fourth author interview. Let's hear from Scoot McMahon. It's a pleasure to interview somebody who's local. Where are you coming to me from?
So I'm right down River Road from Perrysburg and Rossford, and I spend a lot of time in Perrysburg, eating at the different restaurants, visiting family that lives there, and also at Gathering Volumes Bookstore.
My favorite indie bookstore.
Yeah, shout out to Denise.
Yeah, that's how we got connected.
Yep.
And I understand you will be at the Northwest Ohio Teen Book Festival. So, what will be your role there? Are you doing breakout sessions or what are you doing?
Yeah, so I'll be doing breakout sessions at the Book Fest, specifically a breakout session. I think this is like my fourth or fifth year. I've done the Northwest Ohio Teen Book Fest as a local author slash cartoonist, but I will be doing a breakout session where I'll be, I call it creating characters. So it's an interactive session where I kind of teach young creators how I come up with some of the ideas of these characters, and then I invite them up to this drawing board and we kind of collaborate together, and I show them how easy it is to just take like a scribble or a mistake and turn it into something that's like a fully realized character. So that's about an hour long session, and like I said, I've kind of been doing that at the book fest, and it's a pretty popular breakout session. I think a lot of the kids like it because it's interactive.
Very good. As we are recording this, I know that we're on Zoom right now, and of course, the audience can't see what I'm looking at, but there's some really great artwork behind Scoot here. So if you would like to check out his art ahead of time, where can my audience learn more?
So you can follow me at Scoot Comics on Instagram. Also, my website, scootcomics.com. You can see all my different books. And then you can also just, like I said, Gathering Volumes carries my books. So go to that bookstore, ask Denise about Scoot McMahon books. She'll show you where my comics are. And you can just Google me on Amazon. My books are all up there as well. But I encourage you to go to your local bookstore first before shopping online.
Okay, I'm going to make some guesses here because we don't know each other very well. You write comics for teens and tweens, right? What else can you tell me about the genre? Is it sports related stuff or is it silly stuff? What kind of comics do you write and draw?
Yeah, so my bread and butter is kind of like that middle grade, like you said, early, late elementary, early junior high. I also have done more all ages stuff, younger stuff, but I've done most of my stuff involves a little bit of comedy, a little bit of action, and I oftentimes collaborate with other cartoonists. So I may write one and a friend may draw a comic, or in the case of my new book, Ninja Kaiju, which will be available at the Northwest Ohio Teen Book Fest. My friend Franco kind of did the scripting for this one, and I did all the artwork and um, in had feed input into the story as well. So we co-created that. So yeah, I've done pro wrestling comics, Agents of Slam. I think Denise may have some of these still at the Northwest Ohio Book Festival, and then a little bit more silly, spooky comedy like Wrapped Up, a story about a neighborhood mummy family, kind of like similar to like a Perrysburg or Rossford neighborhood, and this little family lives there, almost like the Munsters. So I've done a lot of different genres and kind of stories, but all of them kind of have humor involved some way or the other. That's kind of where I work best, I think.
Congratulations on finding your niche. It seems like you're really good at it. I see a lot of very colorful, interesting drawings behind you as I'm looking at this. And I'll check out your Instagram because that's such a perfect medium for you to publish more information about your book covers and what you do.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, and like I said, it's at Scoot Comics is my Instagram, and sometimes I'll even post daily drawings. So when I'm working on a comic, I'll post like later today. By the time this is podcast is published, it'll be up there. But I'll post what I'm working on, the current comic I'm working on, kind of like a behind the scenes sneak peek at what I'm doing.
A lot of people like behind the scenes stuff. We're recording this on April 1st, 2026. So if somebody finds this in the future, of course, this is going to publish on April 17th. But if anybody finds this after that, then you can go back in time and look at April 1st, 2026.
Yeah.
Cool tip. All right. Well, what inspired you to become an artist? What did you read when you were young, too? A teen or a tween?
Yeah, so when I was a kid, a younger kid, I did actually read a lot of comic books. I actually wasn't a very good reader, so comic books kind of got me into reading, and I think I hear that story a lot from young readers today. Comics are kind of inviting them. It's kind of that bridge from picture books into novels, and graphic novels are what a lot of comics are called now. But that's how I got into comics. And then just my influences were a lot of cartoons as well. So like Disney afternoon cartoons like DuckTales and Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers, and then more dramatic cartoons like Batman the Animated Series and X-Men. So I kind of take elements from all that stuff and the comics I read as a kid, and that's how I'm inspired. Also, I grew up in a family that was very supportive, so I was inspired a lot by just the silliness of having two younger brothers and my parents and cousins nearby. So I use a lot of that, especially in the book Wrapped Up, which again is about a mummy family, but it's a lot of stuff in that book that I co-created with Dave Scheid, my other friend, that we took from real life experiences.
I'm so glad that you brought up the comic book term, I guess you could say, because I come from probably your generation. I'm 47, and when I was growing up, I watched, Batman on TV, and my dad's like, "Oh, you think that's cool? Look at these comic books,"
Yeah,
and he brought out his old, anything from Archie and Jughead to
yeah.
Batman to I think the Fantastic Four with the rock creature guy.
Yeah, the
I was always
thing. Yeah,
I was so fascinated by that. Like, how does that thing walk? And what would that sound like? I
yeah,
don't know. When you're a kid, you're just fascinated. So, when you talk about comics, really, they're what kids nowadays call graphic novels. Is that
yeah.
right?
Yeah,
Okay.
graphic novels has kind of been the adopted term now, but yeah, it's all they're still comic books essentially. Pictures, sequential art telling a story. Yep.
Okay. I don't want to offend anybody. So, thank
No.
you for helping me with my terminology.
Yeah.
Hey, if I didn't know for sure, I just want to make sure that my audience knows. Same
Yeah.
thing. All right. Well, you said you participated for up to 5 years. I think this is the fifth year. So, I want to know, why do you think teen book festivals are important?
Well, it's really cool because you get a direct, like it's very intimate in a way where kids can just come up to you and ask you, and I'm not in a rush to like go somewhere else like I sometimes am at a Comic Con or a bigger event like that. This is like a place where they can ask questions. They feel comfortable because it's usually, it's surrounded by authors and creators like myself that are doing something that maybe they are interested in and have questions about. And we try to be very just like, you know, open and inviting. Like there's a session like at the end where they can come up like at a signing session so they can bring their books and get them signed. And that's a lot of times where I can just connect with those teens and they can ask any questions they have. And it's, I don't know, it just feels very laid back and it's a good environment for kids to feel comfortable approaching their authors and creators that they kind of admire or maybe potentially want to do when they get older.
Yeah. They didn't have anything like this back in the 80s or 90s when I was, a teen or a tween. So I think it's a great opportunity to become inspired.
Yeah, and it's free too, so anyone can come to it. Like there's no limitation. Like you just show up and you know walk into a breakout session. If it's not quite your cup of tea, you're free to just come and go. So it's pretty easy to kind of get around this Teen Book Fest and not feel uncomfortable, I would say. Yeah.
What kind of engagement do you hope to get from the participants at this teen book festival?
Yeah, well, a lot of time they ask, they can't come up like during my breakout session. I invite people up to will draw characters, even if they're not artists, they're just they're aspiring writers. I still encourage them to come up because even when you're a writer, I have friends that only write comics and I draw and write comics, but the friends that only write comics, sometimes when they are trying to present something to me like a script, if even if it's just stick people, if they sketch it out, that's way better for the artist to see that visually and just get an idea for kind of what they are trying to, you know, depict with their words because sometimes things can be interpreted differently. So I encourage even non-artists to come up, participate, get involved. You'll have fun. There's no pressure. Nobody's going to laugh if you do a bad drawing because we're going to turn it into something cool. And then also on top of that, I think at the end session when there's the signing session, just, ask me any questions. Like what was it? I grew up in Northwest Ohio, so I'm you essentially in the future. Like I can kind of give you advice about where I was at your age and how I got to the point that I'm at now.
I'm glad you said that because you're so accessible. You are, like you said, you are us. You are Northwest Ohio.
Yeah, yep. I grew up here, and yeah, the way the world works now with social media and the internet, I work from home. I make comics that are in libraries all across the US and Canada. So it's pretty cool.
Congratulations on your success. I'm looking forward to meeting you at the Teen Book Festival. Is there anything else you want to share as we wrap this up?
No, I think just, if you're an aspiring creator, don't be shy. Come to the festival. I know some kids are naturally shy, but you don't have to ask me any questions, but I would encourage you to at least go to the festival and check out all the different authors and check out our books.
Great advice. Scoot, thanks again for being here on the Perrysburg podcast.
Thank you, Kim. It was my pleasure.
That's it for my conversation with Scoot McMahon. I think it's pretty cool that alphabetically we ended up with two illustrators back to back here on this podcast episode. We had Mark Crilley first and then Scoot McMahon. They both are illustrators. All right, let's move on to author number 5. Author number 5 is next. Let's hear from Abbey Nash. Hi, Abbey. Welcome to the Perrysburg podcast.
Hi, thanks for having me.
It's my pleasure. I understand you're going to be coming to Toledo for the Northwest Ohio Teen Book Festival. How exciting!
I am. I'm very excited about attending. There's some often awesome authors coming, and I'm really excited to be a part of it.
Awesome. And where are you coming to us from?
I'm coming from outside of Philadelphia, so it's a little bit of a hike, but not so bad.
Right. Well, I'm happy that you're going to be able to participate. Will you be doing any breakout sessions or book signings? What's your participation going to be?
I'm sitting on 3 panels: the Love is in the Air panel, Braving the Elements, which it's about, nature and how we use the elements in storytelling, and then Slice of Life, which is about contemporary fiction, which is the genre that I write in. I will also be at the signing at the end.
That is the part I'm planning to attend. I don't know if I'm going to
Okay.
be able to get away for the whole entire thing, but still, I'm excited to
Yep.
hear that you're going to be doing so much at the festival.
Yep. Yep. Me too. I'm looking forward to meeting lots of people. And I think that participating across the board in that way gives me opportunities to do that.
Yes, yes, indeed. Abbey, can you tell me what book titles you've written and what genres they're in?
Sure. So I write contemporary YA fiction, and my first novel was called Lifeline. My most recently published novel with Holiday House is called Breathing Underwater. It was published in 2024. It's been in paperback and hardback for a while, but it actually just came out in audiobook as well.
Way to go with the audiobook. That's my
Yeah.
preferred way to read.
Me too, recently, actually. I have a very rambunctious husky lab mix. And so being able to go on walks and read at the same time is working well for me.
That's awesome. Well, can you tell me a little bit about why you wrote the most recent title?
Sure. So Breathing Underwater has a protagonist who is a competitive swimmer that is diagnosed with epilepsy right before this huge swim meet that is supposed to secure her scholarship at a dream college and really launch her in the direction of her dreams. And while I am not a competitive swimmer, I am someone who was diagnosed with epilepsy in my 20s. And there are not a lot of books with protagonists who have epilepsy, even though about 1 in 26 people have been diagnosed with the condition. It's really, one of those invisible disabilities, in that you could have someone sitting right next to you in school or work and, have no idea that they have this condition that impacts their, most aspects of their life, if not all of their life. And so, I really want to explore this idea of the courage and determination and really self-compassion that it takes to have an experience that, throws a curveball into what you thought life was going to be, which I think is, relevant to most people, especially teenagers heading into sort of college years, right? Things don't always shape up the way they thought they were going to. And I think it's important to think about how we get to show up in our lives when that happens, showing up to what is hard and what is good at the same time, and having a willingness to sort of let that path unfold as we walk it.
That sounds like a very personal why for writing this book.
Yes, for sure. Most of my books and my writing has been that way. It's my own processing tool, I think, and the way that I connect with other people the best is writing about personal experiences for sure.
I am a swimmer, like recreational swimmer, non-competitive swimmer. So when I saw the book title, I'm like, out of all the books at this book festival, this one drew me in immediately.
Yeah,
Yeah. But are
yeah.
you yourself a swimmer?
So I'm not. There is a lot of safety that needs to go into being able to safely swim as a person with epilepsy, and I just have not dug into that yet. I like other water activities. I love to kayak and be out on a boat, but I'm not a huge swimmer. Although I have been thinking about taking some private lessons to sort of feel more confident in the water to be able to do it for exercise, but we will see.
Well, good luck on that. I support
Yeah.
that because I am a swimmer and it's a great sport. I love it.
Yeah. Yeah. So I hear.
All right. Well, as you think about coming to Toledo, have you ever been here before?
I haven't. I haven't. It'll be a brand new experience. My husband's coming with me. We're going to take the weekend and leave the kids and the dog, and I'm looking forward to exploring.
All right. Well, I hope that Toledo does right by you and you want to come back.
Yeah. Yeah.
Awesome. And what kind of participation are you hoping for from the participants? I mean, what do you hope they'll say or do or feel about you coming?
Yeah, so, I love meeting people who have read my books or even are just interested in the topic. Of course, it's been the most meaningful in the past when other people who have had, similar diagnoses or challenging experiences are able to reflect on how the book has impacted their lives. But just anyone who wants to talk about writing or their love of reading in general, it's always super fun to connect with other writers and student readers as well. So I hope that people come to the panels. I hope they feel comfortable talking to me afterwards, and certainly that they come to the signing as well.
Why do you think teen book festivals are important in general?
I think that anytime artists and lovers of art gather, it is there's sort of a energetic leverage that happens that inspires creativity and thought. But I also think, especially right now in our current climate, it is really important that we create safe spaces where people um, who think critically and um, engage thoughtfully with other people and new ideas can gather, and especially for teenagers and tweens who are going to be our next generation of leaders, that they have that opportunity and so that they can sort of carry that forward. And I think literature is it's definitely a critical starting point for thinking for thinking critically and freely and exploring new aspects of the world.
I feel like you've just given participants permission to to be part of a community,
Great. I hope that that is so.
creative community. Come on down to the Northwest Ohio Teen Book Festival, be part of a creative community.
Absolutely. Hope to see you there.
Yeah, and now can I ask, what did you read when you were a teen or a tween?
Yeah. So, when I was in middle school, I was sort of a serial reader and I read all the Little House on the Prairie books and I read all the Chronicles of Narnia. And in high school, there's so much assigned reading and that's what I read. But I loved Of Mice and Men and Corelli's Mandolin. And it really wasn't until my college program and graduate program when I took my first writing for children class that I learned about the giants, John Green and Jennifer Niven, and began to, explore work that is specifically written for teenagers. And that is where my soul is perpetually 17 years old. So I feel like I had found a new reading passion, and that has been a really important part of my reading and writing path for sure.
Thank you for sharing that. I was one of those people who had an English teacher as a mom, and she always wanted me to read, and I think I was just being oppositional, so I didn't read a whole lot. But it sounds like you found it on your own and you loved it.
I did. And I loved what I learned from it too. I remember the Chronicles of Narnia being the first time I realized that there was subtext to language, that there was the external story, and then there was a whole internal meaning that you got to either accept or not accept. And as a writer later on, that was very valuable for me to remember, that you get to do that, that you get to play with internal meaning and tell an emotional story inside of an external arc.
Wow, that's deep. I didn't know the formula, so to speak. Yeah.
I'm still figuring that out. So
Yeah, well, and it's a creative process. There's more than one way
yes,
to do it. So I'm sure you can even discover new ways to bring meaning into stories that you write. And
yeah,
even as an adult, do you enjoy reading young adult fiction?
I do. I love reading contemporary fiction. I love reading even some fantasy. I read books that inspire me to want to explore new genres. And am usually humbled by it and need to stay in my own lane. But like I said, I really love those giants in contemporary fiction, and they absolutely inspire me to reach higher for sure.
Thank you for talking about that. I read to my son all the time. He's 23
Hmm.
and has autism, and I enjoy young adult fiction. I'll admit it. So I think
Yeah.
there's a place for the parents and the teens and tweens to come to this
Hmm.
teen book festival. So I hope there's a great turnout for it and a lot of
Yeah.
participation. I hope you find it worthwhile coming on out to Toledo, and I hope you'll come to the next one if invited.
Thank you so much. I'm sure I'm going to enjoy it, and I hope to see you there. It'd be fun to meet you in person.
Yeah, I would love to. I should be there at the author signing. I'm planning to be there towards the end of the day. Abby, as we start to wrap this up, anything else you'd like to share?
Like I said, I'm really just looking forward to engaging with participants, and I would love for people to feel free to come visit with me after the panels and ask any questions that they want.
All right. I love that invitation. Well, Abby, thanks for being here on the Perrysburg podcast.
Thanks so much for having me.
My pleasure. That's the end of my conversation with Abby Nash. Thanks again to Abby for being part of this awesome episode. Our sixth author is next. Let's hear from Natalie D. Richards. Hi, Natalie. Welcome to the Perrysburg podcast.
Thank you, Kim. I'm so happy to be here.
Good to have you with me today. I understand you'll be coming over to Toledo from somewhere else in the United States. Where are you coming from?
I am actually coming from Columbus, Ohio. I don't think I'll be coming. Boy, Kim, what does this say? Am I coming from another school visit? I think I'm just coming from Columbus. So I'll be coming in from Ohio to Ohio, just a different area.
Gotcha. So you're kind of a local, but just a little couple hours away.
Yes. And my son is at Ohio Northern, which is not too far from Toledo. So I'm in the area pretty frequently.
Got it. All right. I have a son at the University of Cincinnati. So
Oh,
you and me, we got kids along I-75, right?
that's right. That's right.
Awesome. I'm happy to hear that you're coming over for the Northwest Ohio Teen Book Festival. Is this your first time being part of it?
No, I've been several times. It's one of the best festivals in Ohio. I think they've done a beautiful job.
I'm happy to hear that. Now, this year, are you going to be doing the same types of things that you did last year? Tell me, what's your involvement this year?
So I think 2 years ago, I was the keynote speaker for the conference, which is fantastic. It's got a lot of energy. There's so many people talking about the books they love. There are a lot of different authors to hear from, different panels you can go to. So I will still be leading workshops, and I believe I'll also be on a panel, but I will not be the keynote speaker this year. The tremendous thing about the conference, though, is that there's something for everyone. So if you are just an avid reader, you're going to find plenty of things you want to hear about. And if you're interested in writing, there's no better place to pick an author's brain.
Well said. Yes, this seems like a really great book festival, just in general. Now, I understand that the featured book on the website written by you is 49 Miles Alone. So if you go to nwoteenbookfest.com and you look at Natalie D. Richards, you will see 49 Miles Alone. Can you tell me what genre is that in? And are all of your books in that genre?
So most of my books are in the thriller genre, which is what I would consider 49 Miles Alone. 49 Miles Alone is an Edgar winner, which is very exciting. It won the 2025 Mystery Writers of America Edgar Award for Young Adult, which was a super exciting moment. This is a story that is both a survival thriller and a traditional thriller wrapped into one. And it's also a bit of a girl power book. It is about two cousins who are best friends who have a habit of taking a very long hike together. They want to kind of do this as independent women. And one of the cousins, Katie, encounters something really awful and tragic, an assault. And after that, they're kind of rekindling in this book. They're like, we're going to do this again. Even though I'm afraid and broken, we're going back out on a long trail, a 49-mile hike in Utah. The trouble is, the desert doesn't play nice. So they run into all kinds of issues on the hike itself. And then they also run into issues when they find another woman on the trail, one who might be in very serious, immediate danger.
I can see how it's a thriller.
It is, yes. If you see my name, there's definitely a thriller involved. That said, I do have two books that are middle grade, which are more adventures. So you'll find if you meet me at the festival, and I really hope you do, when you come, I'm very goofy and a little ridiculous. So people think, oh my gosh, she's so funny. I should read her book. And I always say, but I kill people. So bear that in mind. But my middle grades, I assure you, I kill no one. So there's that.
Well, it sounds like you have some books that are a little bit more tame, and then
Yes.
some that are definitely more exciting and the thrillers. And
Yes.
congratulations on your Edgar Award.
Thank you. Thank you. It was a huge surprise. The book has done so well. It was nominated for many awards. I had no dream that it would win. I was quite shocked. Had no speech. I was that person.
I think that's a very human thing to say. None of us expects to win awards. I think you probably went
Right.
into writing not for the awards, right? Like, why did you become a writer?
So I believe that writers are most of us. I guess I can't speak to all of us, but I believe most writers are readers first, right? That's what sparks the fire. And for me in particular, probably at the age that many of my readers are, and even younger than that, I had a really difficult world around me. My home life was unsafe and certainly unsatisfactory. So I was really frightened and consumed by stresses far beyond my years. And we were very impoverished. We didn't have the ability to, I wasn't going to get out. I wasn't going to travel. There was no exciting future in a Ivy League college for me. So instead, what I did have was a public library and I had books. And I found that books could teach me anything, take me anywhere, and allow me to experience anything. I also found that there's something really magical about having a book in your hands at 3 o'clock in the morning that you absolutely have to know what happens. How does this turn out? Are they going to live? Are they going to make it out okay? Though that feeling that you get is fundamental to me as a reader, and it is what I most wanted to give to other people. And I believe that's the feeling that turned me into a writer.
Wow, that's deep. And I love that you shared that. Thank you so much. That might resonate with more than just me. Thank you so much for sharing that.
Of course, of course.
Yeah, I understand that this book festival is supposed to inspire teens and tweens to be readers, but also maybe become writers and illustrators too. So
Yeah,
they need to be
absolutely.
hearing from you.
Yeah. And I think it's especially important right now. We're losing so much story, human story. Right now, of course, we're in the age of AI and everything's automatic and everything's generated. But I'm not really interested in those stories or those graphics or those animations. I'm interested in the human experience. I think many of us are. So I love to see young writers writing or throwing around story ideas or doodling on the back of their sketchbooks. Like that's a really powerful thing. And I want to do everything I can to support it.
I love that inspiration, that desire to inspire.
Yes. Desire to inspire. I like that.
It rhymes
Kim,
too,
we should
right?
have stickers.
There you go. It needs to be on a t-shirt. Isn't that the old
Yes.
saying? Awesome. Well, what did you read when you were a young person?
There was not much in the way of young adult or teen fiction, Kim, when I was wee, because I am 150,000 years old. No, there really was not a lot of, we did have a few things. We had Goosebumps, of course, R.L. Stein, the great. However, it was young, of course, it was very young. And as I started to age out of Goosebumps a bit, I wanted something a little scarier. So I delved immediately into Stephen King and Dean Koontz, the masters of, horror and thrillers. And there was something really powerful to me about those books, about I wasn't able to buy in so easily to romance or, the happily ever afters or the happy family stories. That was really hard for me. I didn't necessarily believe it, but I definitely believed in fear. And what I wanted to see was some level of triumph over fear. And I think that is what drew me to thrillers. Also, I'm impatient. And Kim, I think if you are an impatient writer, thrillers works well because I'm nervous. I'm on the edge of my seat. I want to move fast. Probably I should not be writing epic fantasy. And I don't.
I was curious if you were one of those people who might have looked in the good old fashioned newspaper. All right, I'm 47 years old and I used to read what's everybody else reading, like what's on the New York Times bestsellers list.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, did you do that?
I did. I think initially I did a lot of my librarians taught me what to read. They would say, I think you might like this, or what about that? And later, I think as I grew older, so that's more when I'm like 11, 12, maybe even 10, I'm reading Stephen King. What does that say about me?
Wow.
Nothing good, Kim, nothing good. But
You
here
were
I am. It
curious.
worked out. But yes, so I would say as I grew a little older, I did start to become interested in, I went through a huge phase of, I want to read every classic thing. So I'm reading, Walt Whitman and all the way through, The Great Gatsby and Hemingway and all the way through all of the classics that you would think of. And then I started to explore other voices. I realized, gosh, I am just reading a whole lot of old white guys. That is what I'm reading. So I started to change. I read Toni Morrison, who changed my life, and Barbara Kingsolver. So I read all over the place. And in fact, when people ask me, and people often do, how do I become an author? I always say, read everything. Read the wonderful things, read the things everyone recommends, and read the things that you haven't heard much about. Because, spoiler, not every book that is on the New York Times bestseller list is necessarily the best book out there. And equally, not every book that's great wins awards. So I always feel like, yes, that's a great place to start, but take it with a grain of salt because many incredible books never make it to that level. There's a lot of marketing that goes behind even awards. So, awards and bestseller lists, those you have to remember it's not just the quality of the book that rises to the top, it's also how much push did this book get? And I've seen that personally in my own work. So
Yeah, I've heard that you might have made it onto that list at one point. Can you
I
talk
did.
about
I've
that?
had a couple of books on the New York Times bestseller list. I know. It's so exciting.
Congrats.
It
That's
is. Thank
amazing.
you. It's super exciting, but it's also, I try to tell people, yes, it's amazing. And it's also a little bit of a lightning strike. So sometimes it happens and it's amazing, but the most important thing that you can do as a writer is to have readers that want to read more of your books, and that is, I feel like, my greatest accomplishment is I have a lot of repeat readers. Hitting the list, if you have enough push behind you, it's a little easier to do, but it's really, the mark is how many people are going after the next one. Do they read one and say, what else has she got? That's when you know, okay, I'm doing a good job.
That's really great advice. Just as a writer, write with your audience in mind, write with hooking them so that they come back for more.
That's right. Yes.
Awesome. Is there anything else about book festivals or attending this particular book festival that you'd like to share with my audience?
I definitely would encourage anyone hearing you that wants to be a writer, and I'm going to broaden this to say you do not have to be a teenager to come to this conference. And you do not have to know exactly what you want to write. If you have an interest in writing or you want to learn more about the process of publishing, this is your chance. Come talk to us. I know many of the authors who are going to be here, I think most of them, we want to talk to you. We've been on your side of the table not so long ago. So definitely reach out to us and, bring your questions. That's what we're here for. Plus, you'll find something new to love reading.
Yes, find a new book to read.
That's
Absolutely. And
right.
you'll be signing books at I guess it's the last hour, right?
Yes, yes, I will. Sounds
Okay.
good.
I will be at that. So I look forward to meeting you.
Excellent. And thank you so much for bearing with me. Kim has dealt with some technical issues on my side, and you've been lovely about it.
It's my pleasure. Natalie, anything else as we wrap this up?
No, I think I am set. Thank you.
All right. Natalie, thanks for being here on the Perrysburg podcast. And I look forward to meeting you in Toledo, Ohio on April 25th.
Sounds great. See you soon, Kim.
That does it for my interview with Natalie D. Richards. Natalie, thanks again for being part of the Northwest Ohio Teen Book Festival episode. She was a lot of fun to talk to. I love the joke that she's 150,000 years old. She is so totally not. I looked on the website nwoteenbookfest.com and you can see her picture there. She even looks like a lot of fun, and she definitely does not look like she's 150,000 years old. Sorry, I'm still laughing. And also, I wanted to say that I admire that Natalie said desire to inspire. I think we were joking about putting it on a hat or a t shirt. All of these authors could wear a t shirt or a hat that says desire to inspire. I think every single one of them has indicated that one of the things they like to do most is inspire. Inspire people to learn, read, write, or draw. All of the authors that I have had a chance to speak with have been wonderful, including this seventh and final author. Let's hear from Dr. Suja Sukumar. Hi, Suja. Welcome to the Perrysburg podcast.
Hi, Kim. Thank you so much for having me here.
It is my pleasure. I understand that you are an author who will be coming to the Northwest Ohio Teen Book Festival here in April. How exciting!
I'm really excited about it. I'm really looking forward to it.
Awesome. Well, I'm happy that you can come out for it. Can you tell me the genre that you write in and the title of your most recent book?
So, the genre is a young adult thriller, and the book is titled When Mimi Went Missing.
Okay, thank you very much for saying that. I heard through the grapevine that you are a physician, so I'm kind of curious. Is this your first book, and when and why did you start writing?
So, yeah, this is actually, I would probably consider it my second career at this point. I've been in medicine practicing as a primary care physician for several years. Started practicing, about 30 years ago, 32 years ago. And I was in my early 40s when I decided to start writing. And the main reason I wrote this book was because I wanted to write a book with South Asian diaspora representation. I couldn't find a lot of young adult suspense books which had that rep. And my kids were young. And, so I used to tell them bedtime stories with mysteries in it. And then that's when I realized that at the libraries, there were not many books with South Asian rep. I also wanted to give representation actually to a lot of mental illness, which I had seen or which I had seen in the kids I came in contact with. And I wanted to pretty much write outside the box. I think that was important for me because often especially in marginalized communities, people get stereotyped or the kids get stereotyped. And it was very important for me to write outside the stereotypes, outside the box. So I would say the main reason I wrote this book is to make sure, to sort of give an idea that every kid belongs. And many of the themes in the book crosses barriers or ethnic barriers and can apply to everybody. So it's not sort of limited to the diaspora itself. So there were a lot of messages, a lot of things I wanted to write about. And that's the main reason I started writing this book.
I appreciate the comment about representation because a lot of people want to see themselves reflected in the type of author that they're reading. So it sounds familiar, maybe the names in the book or some of the cultural things in the book. It sounds like you hit on that. But then a lot of us in the United States are starting to realize that mental health conditions are more common than we first thought. I think in the pandemic, a lot of things started opening up, people started opening up and talking about things. Can you tell me what's one mental health condition that is talked about in your book?
So the main condition I would say is talked about in my book is PTSD, because the main character, she's a 16-year-old girl named Tanvi. And at the age of 8, she lost her parents in a murder suicide, actually. And that affected her mentally quite a bit. So she gets taken in by her aunt and her cousin. So she becomes extremely fearful that she's going to lose the family she has, and that's her cousin. So the whole story sort of revolves around the way she reacts when she fears that she's going to lose the one connection she has now. She's extremely scared, and I just wanted to show that this is not an uncommon thing, and I wanted to show the issue, but also show ways of getting, I wouldn't say getting over it, but basically challenging it, and and she gets stronger in the process. I don't want to spoil the ending of the story, but basically, that was one of the themes. That was the main issue I wanted to bring up in the book.
Okay, thank you for revealing that. Just saying that might make one person listening to this more interested in getting this book and meeting you and hearing what you have to say when you talk on a panel. Which brings me to my next question. I understand that you'll be speaking on a panel and signing some books. Is there anything else you'll be doing at the Teen Book Festival?
Speaking at a couple of panels in the event. Yeah, and then I'll be talking to the kids, to the attendees, the kids and their parents, and I'm really excited about that part. I'd been to a few of those children's. The ones that there was one at Hudson I had been to last year, and I got to meet a lot of teens at that point, and I really enjoy that part, to tell the truth.
Awesome. Well, what are you hoping that the kids of Northwest Ohio will do when they see you and they meet you? What kind of interaction are you looking forward to?
I'm actually looking forward to a lot of questions. And I think the thing with kids is once they feel familiar, once they feel, they don't have to worry about things. They'll open up and ask questions. And I want them to look at the cover of the book and realize that these kids in the book are kids they can relate to. They may look different, but that's perfectly fine because that's the US. So I want them to look at the cover, look at the experiences these kids in the book they went through, realize that these things are relatable, that these are things they can relate to. And hopefully I'm hoping that'll bring empathy in. And I feel, that empathy, the need to empathize with somebody, is something which we need to probably grow a little bit more.
It sounds like you're just looking forward to relating to people who may look different or sound different from you, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, I think we all want to connect, fundamentally. And
Yeah.
I think when you meet these young people and talk about the issues in the book or the fact that you wrote a book and you went through the process, I think anybody who wants to write a book too or wants to relate to other people can learn things from you.
Thank you. That'll be awesome.
Absolutely. And I understand you'll be signing books at the end as well.
Yes, yeah. At the end, they have a period of time kept off for signing, and I'm hoping that, along with signing books, I'll get to meet people one-on-one, kids one-on-one at that point, so they can ask me anything they want about the book, about the process of writing itself. There may be kids who are interested in looking at writing as a second career, so that could be something I'd love to talk about. Yeah, and basically the love for literature and the love for writing and the love for fiction and the love to listen to stories.
Yes. Good points. All good points. Can I ask, what did you read when you were a teen or a tween? What books kind of entertained you and also challenged you and interested you?
Well, I grew up on a lot of mysteries. I mean, I was the youngest of three. My siblings were they used to read a lot too. But I love mysteries, so I used to hoard them. And typically, I grew up in India, so we had there was this writer Enid Blyton. She's a British writer, was a British writer. So I read a lot of her books, and then Nancy Drew, Hardy Boys, and then I started reading Agatha Christie's. And Agatha Christie, that author, I mean, those books are what really got me into mystery writing. I love those books, and I have a whole library of them in my house right now.
Can you believe I heard Agatha Christie was a pharmacist?
Oh, I had no idea.
I heard, I can't, this is unconfirmed. I will have to do my homework after I have now said this. But if that is true, I've got to check out her mysteries. I heard that there's poisonings and things in there. Is that true?
Yeah. So that is actually really true because she uses a lot of poisons, and that's like if the killer is a female, poisoning is usually could be the way they try to get rid of victims. I actually read a lot of those books too because I was looking into a ways of where you can kill somebody but you can hide it so that it doesn't seem like murder. you know so that was a good point of research for me. I had to actually research quite a bit on that.
I grew up watching Disney movies, okay? And
Uh-huh.
in the Snow White movie, there's the poisoned apple. And for
Yeah.
some reason, that just fascinated me. And it's part of the reason that I went into pharmacy. I
Oh,
was
that's
fascinated by the poison and antidote thing. And to this day, on my other podcast, just between you and me here, I have a poisoning prevention series every March in honor of Poisoning Prevention Month and
Oh,
National
that's
Poison Prevention
awesome.
Week. Yeah.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's
So
interesting.
Agatha Christie, again, I gotta figure out if she really was a pharmacist or not. But if she used poisons, I mean, I think that's a little bit of herself, her professional identity that she's brought in there. And then you, as a doctor, I love that you did the research on
Yeah.
various poisons that you could use in your plot line. That's cool.
Yeah. Exactly. The poison she used, sorry, just to interject, were basically things available outside commonly. So she used to use a lot of those in her books.
Very cool. I got to read some of these Agatha Christie books. I'm glad we talked about this. Thank you for telling me what you read when you were a young person as well. I think somebody listening to this might have just gotten some good book recommendations. Awesome. Well, I know that we're kind of getting towards to the end of the interview. Is there anything else that you would like to share?
I think the main thing is I'm hoping that kids keep reading, teens keep reading, and because I've seen lately that there's more of a shift away from reading, which sort of makes me feel sad because there's so much messages, there's so much information available in the stories, especially when you read outside what your comfort zone. And so I would say the main thing is, I would like people to keep reading, read outside their comfort zone, and realize that a lot of things which people face is not limited to your own ethnicity. It's often something faced by somebody else. So it helps make people come closer. That's what I think.
I feel like this book festival is a really good opportunity for kids to shop for new books and meet authors, get inspired, and be part of a reading community. Is there, as we close this up here, is there any other reason that you can think of that a teen or tween and or their parents should come to this book festival?
Well, I would say the main thing is to improve the experience, I would say, because everything you face in life is a life experience. So you choose to have an experience with books, you choose to have an experience with stories, you choose to meet the people behind those stories, the creatives, and you want to see if can you get inspired by those people? Do you want to follow their path? I think it's more of an adventure. That's what I would say. So if you're in for an adventure, then come for the festival.
I love that. Excellent parting words. Suja, thank you very much for being on the Perrysburg podcast. I look forward to meeting you in Toledo at the Northwest Ohio Teen Book Festival.
Thank you so much, Kim.
You're welcome. That does it for my interview with Suja Sukumar. Thank you very much to Suja. And now I have to be a responsible podcast host and follow up on that conversation about Agatha Christie. Here's what I found out. I went to ChatGPT because nowadays that's what we do. And ChatGPT told me that, quote, she worked in a dispensary or a pharmacy setting, end quote. Now, if you read up on her, she was kind of like the equivalent of a pharmacy technician. I was close, not a pharmacist, but a pharmacy technician. And she was alive during the World War I era. It stands to reason, to me anyways, that she was observant about medications and probably poisons as well. And I don't blame her. That whole poison and antidote theme is very intriguing, not only in the stories that she wrote, but just in real life. It's very intriguing. I will just have to read my first ever Agatha Christie novel this year, and thank you very much to Dr. Suja Sukumar for the inspiration. And thanks again for the interview. And that does it for all 8 guest interviews. We had Denise Phillips first, and then the 7 author interviews. We had Chelsea, Paul, Mark, Scoot, Abbey, Natalie, and Suja. If you made it all the way to the end, congratulations. You have now listened to the longest episode of the Perrysburg podcast ever. And I hope you'll agree, it was worth it. What a great episode. I have at least a dozen books to add to my reading list, and I'm excited to meet all of these awesome authors in person at the Northwest Ohio Teen Book Festival in Toledo on Saturday, April 25th, 2026. Thank you so much for listening to episode 143 of the Perrysburg Podcast. The show notes are on perrysburgpodcast.com. In the show notes, you'll find the names of all 7 authors who participated in this episode and the timestamps for each interview, including the timestamp for Denise's interview that gave all the general information at the start. I'll also have a link to the website for the Northwest Ohio Teen Book Festival, a link to Gathering Volumes Bookstore, and more. Lots of information on perrysburgpodcast.com. Check out the show notes for episode 143. If you know someone who is bookish and would like today's episode, please share it with them. And if you like this podcast, please come back. We've got a lot more coming up here in 2026. Subscribe to or follow the Perrysburg Podcast on your favorite podcast player and on YouTube so you never miss an episode. Thanks so much for listening. I'll talk to you next week.